Okay. All right. Okay. Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Thank you to everyone who's watching this right now. We are now in our second session for this You Are Not Alone event by Salim 2020. My name is Shazwan and I am here right now with our second guest speaker, Dr. Katherine Hall. How are you, Doctor?
I'm good. How are you, Mohammed? Salam alaikum.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing fine as well. So maybe to our audience here, maybe you want to talk a little bit, to introduce yourself, something to let them know about you.
Hi. So I'm joining tonight. Well, it's nighttime here in the U.S. From Virginia in the United States. And Mohammed and I know each other from Abu Dhabi at Khalifa University, where I was an instructor of public speaking, psychology, technical writing, English, and business communications in the Department of I just forgot my department, humanities and social science. But as I said, I've moved back to the United States now. But given my background in teaching psychology and also working with 110 students last semester when the COVID started online, Mohammed's asked me to talk to you a little bit about depression and what's going on with students who are learning online. So here I am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jan. We are honored to have you here, and thank you so much for your time here. So I'm just going to give an introduction, a brief introduction of what we're going to talk about today. So as we all know now that we've been facing this COVID-19 pandemic for almost a year, or to be exact, it's been like 9 months already, and every country in every part of the world is doing their best in fighting it. So in Malaysia, we are currently now practicing a new norm such as maintaining social distancing, wearing face masks whenever we go into public places, as well as try to avoid going to crowded places as much as possible. So there's been a lot of effort that's been done by the government as well as other institutions to help improve the country's economies, including our education system as well. I am, as you all know, as Dr. Hall has said, I'm also a university student, and I believe that a lot of the viewers here are as well. So we've been doing online learning for quite a huge amount of time now, and so um, I guess it will be interesting to see or get an insight on how this learning on the virtual world will affect us, the students. So, um, or should I say that more specifically, what are the impacts of the online learnings towards the student? So without further ado, let's start with our first question that I want to ask you, Doctor. So how do you think that online learning has actually been helping the students during this pandemic, COVID-19?
You want me to talk about how it's helping students?
Yeah.
First. So again, I taught 110 students on last semester online, and I've also interviewed quite a few students here through some mentoring programs I'm doing with Virginia Tech. And I don't think at first we were aware this was going to happen, but one of the things I think that has happened with students that is a good thing is that you are having to learn how to be more organized and independent and self-sufficient, because without the teacher in the classroom, I think it's making students have to figure out things more on their own, although I'm hoping that the teachers are there to help them when they need it. I think too that one of the things a lot of students have mentioned is that they didn't know how to schedule their time. Like, when should I study? When should, obviously, if class is live, they know when the class is. If the teacher's recording things and putting them online, students are having to figure out their own schedule in ways that I think that they didn't know before. Teaching freshman English at university, one of the things that is not on the syllabus, we call it the hidden curriculum, is for students to figure out how to be a university student. And I think particularly for young university students, this sudden switch to online learning has turned out in a good way that they know how to organize themselves. And even to the point, students have told me they didn't have a space set up to do their homework or work on projects and assignments. And now they've created an office.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter what kind of room, if they're in an apartment, if they're at home with their families, whatever, they've created that place where they actually can do their work for university. And I think these things have helped a lot with students in the maturity about managing all the things that are involved in being a university student. So I'd say that's definitely one of the positives. And of course, we can say, gosh, I'd say even for the professors, we've learned a lot about technology. We've learned the ways that technology can help us reach out to one another. I think way past, some people that's their job, obviously. And some students, I think, like yourself, this is part of your major, but we've had to try different platforms. We've had to learn how to fix issues when issues come up, things that I think a lot of students and again, faculty never had to think about before. In my opinion, this is certainly a good thing.
I see. So, I totally agree with that because I I really feel that for example, like just this past Tuesday, I had somehow get disconnected from one of my classes, and what's worse is that the lecturer suddenly actually told us in the starting of the class that he wanted to give us a graded class activity, and so I couldn't do it because I got disconnected from the platform. So I need to email him, just telling what's going on, and then to reconsider whether I could retake the assignment or not. So I really do need to take the initiatives, and I need to put in a lot more effort in this online learning. So it really taught us how to be independent more as well. So with so that's the benefits. Now, what are the do you think like the bad impacts or maybe like the negatives of this online learning, if any? Do you think?
So, I mean, let's go back to in the class that you were with me, which was public speaking. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell our audience, which of course is one of the most important classes to be face to face. I mean, I couldn't think of any worse class to have to go online. And fortunately, I had a background from my PhD at Virginia Tech doing online learning. So but I had to be creative and it was a lot of work. But what happened to the students, I'm afraid, because in particular, as I'd mentioned earlier, it was sudden. And any situation, I would like to think that I have time to teach my students
Mm-hmm.
how to do these things because, of course, it was a different way to teach the class because we couldn't sit together anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of interaction in public speaking, Muhammad would tell you. And
Yeah.
I had to figure out how am I going to keep this interaction and keep the students communicating. So that was the first thing is the shock to the system that happened to everybody because nobody had time to prepare. I couldn't prepare the students. Um, of course, most of the faculty had never done online learning before, so that was a bad thing. And then the next thing that I started realizing is that my students were isolating themselves. And when we weigh that with what causes depression and how does depression start happening with young people in particular, but it's happening with a lot of people during COVID, is the social isolation. So not in all the classes. I think that the thing that was the most interesting for me to notice is that my students who were always, too tired in the morning or coming late to class or whatever it was, suddenly they missed that. They missed that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would watch on Zoom classes in particular, looking at my students, almost all of them were in their room, at their house, at their apartment, wherever they were in the dorm. They were literally stuck in their room. And then I started realizing that even my students, in UAE, the families are really big. They have 4, 5, 6 kids. They literally were living in their rooms. And of course, we're social creatures as human beings. We need to have social interaction. And they were eating in their room. They were having class in their room. They were studying in their room. They literally were like not leaving their rooms. So And when we're looking internationally, and again, I'm talking to students here in the US and my students overseas, this cannot be a good thing. This cannot help with the emotions of something, already scary and uncertain as COVID is, and then to be isolated, literally almost no contact for some of my students. And I heard it from students in the US because something similar happened here at Virginia Tech. The students went on spring break and they never came back. I mean, they were packing their bags literally to come back to campus, and then it never happened. So for me, if we want to look at why are the rates of depression, particularly in college age students, going up, this is why. And part of the reason you choose to go to university is, just looking at the things that you did in my class, going to guest speakers,
Yeah, that's true.
doing different activities, laughing together, suddenly all of this was completely cut off. So when psychologists are talking about, wow, the percentages of depression has gone up, there's no surprise. Why? And honestly, I think the younger the student, university-wise, the more shocking it was for them. They're still learning how to be a university student and how to figure things out, and then suddenly they had no human contact anymore with the university except for online. So a lot of students did not do well. I don't think you'd be surprised to hear that. They failed a lot of classes. They would sleep. They'd stay up all night doing other stuff online, and playing video games or just trying to get some social interaction in. And then they didn't manage their class schedules very well. They would sleep through their morning classes, or the teacher would put something up and say, okay, you need to watch these lectures by the end of the week, and they just couldn't make sense of any of it. Some of my students disappeared for weeks at a time, and it's scary because
Yeah.
what am I going to do? I'm going to call you up and try to Zoom with you or what? And I can tell a lot in body language because that's what I do with public speaking. But when I can't even see my students, I know they're in trouble, and it's very difficult to, again, we're in unknown territory here. So I want you to think about one thing, though, that's interesting in this whole story as I thought about we were going to talk tonight. Online learning is not new. It's 20 years old. However, students that chose to do online classes, earn online degrees, they are independent learners. They are, and they're usually older, by the way. They're non-traditional age students. They were prepared for what was going to happen with that, but they can do their classes and do their work, and then they could go outside. But we took a whole group of students with special needs, students who are like really social and involved in clubs and sports, all these things. We took everybody and put them in online learning, again, without any coaching or preparation. So for me, it's no surprise that the rate of depression has been so big with this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because it seems like we are currently doing everything in our rooms. So we've been doing assignments and eating and sleeping in our room. Even you doing our tests something. So we're always in our room and we rarely go out because of this COVID-19 pandemic. So now what's talking about that, do you think that the positives of the online learning outweighs the negative side of it? Like, is it better for we to, is it still good for us to continue this online learning session? Or should we try to stop it and continue other days or something?
I think, again, the whole world's in this situation, as you know. I think as it allows, depending on the country, I think a combination of both is good.
Combination.
I don't mean to keep bringing up Virginia Tech, but this is where I am right now.
It's okay, it's okay.
These students are going to some classes, and then some of their classes are online live, and then some of their classes are what's called asynchronous, which I'm sure everybody knows now means that you're going and looking at things in your own time. The professor may say, okay, you have, I don't know, 3 days to do this, but they're trying to make a combination of all of this. And they actually have been very strict with the students on campus. They will get suspended if they're not wearing masks and following social distancing. They're isolating students that might turn up with COVID. and they're being very strict with it. And I think, you know, the scary part for, I think, all universities, for the faculty, for the students, for the administration, being on the campus is a very important part of being in university. It's not just the book learning that you get. It's not just, you know, reading chapters and taking tests and looking at your professor literally. You have to have that human interaction. You have to be able to talk with your other students. You've got to have study groups, going to clubs, going to sporting events, all the hundreds of things that come along with being a university student. And I think, again, worldwide, looking at my friends that are teaching and the students that I know, universities very much want to get back to some kind of form of normal because they feel like they're letting the students down. And I mean, let's be honest, not every student can manage this online
Yeah.
learning. He or she, a lot of students, they have to have that interaction. They have to be able to go and talk to the faculty when they have a question. And you know, I think about some of these larger classes. I'm hearing about some students from Khalifa University.
Mhm.
They have some Zoom classes with over 100 students in it. And you know, you've been there. You know, culturally, they're shy already. But imagine
Oh.
that. How would you like to be the person who turns on your camera in front of all these other people that you've never even seen in your whole life? Because it's not possible to
Mm.
see that many people on a screen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think definitely, unfortunately, the negatives are going to outweigh this.
Oof.
I mean, we're
So,
learning a lot. I think all of
mm,
us, we're growing in good ways. I don't think that that's negative, but I think the continued absence of being on a campus is going to hurt everybody. It already is, let's be
definitely,
honest.
yeah.
I mean, do you miss it? Do you miss going to school every day?
Yeah, I do miss it actually. I mean, it's better that we having the face-to-face interactions. We have to face-to-face the so that we can ask our lecturers directly without having to go through email or waiting for them to respond. And yeah, I mean, it's just better to have face-to-face interaction compared to using these online platforms. I totally agree with that.
And I think most students would agree with you. And
Mm-hmm.
another interesting thing I've noticed with talking to students,
Uh-huh.
even my students who are big gamers and spend quite a bit of time on the computer doing games, even they're struggling with the online learning because they said it's not the same. Somehow it's not the same kind of interaction.
Yeah,
You know, if we could do everything like you and I are doing now one on one, then that would be better. But of course, that's not how
definitely
it's
not.
working.
Yeah, it's not like
You
that.
know, so again, I definitely think, unfortunately, the negatives are outweighing the positives.
Let's see. Um, that's quite a bit of unfortunate to hear, but I really do hope that maybe we can, you know, we can try to do our best to just um, not really getting used to it, but try to maybe improve our situations on it, so that we can start to uh, doing better in online learning environment, conducting the online classes and all. And also, we hope that this COVID-19 will end early so that we can go to our campus early, so that we can continue this traditional style of learning. So, so now you've talked about the previously you talked about how the like the mental health problems such as depression could arise from this online learning environment where we not getting we've been in the social isolations so much. So how do you think that with this, it could affect the students such as will it make their performance in education bad, or will it changes their behavior in a certain way, or maybe they're doing worse than what they will be doing when we have that kind of traditional engagement, something like that.
So I think that again, let's talk medical perspective about depression.
Mm-hmm.
People go, I mean, our whole life we go through ups and downs. You know, we're happy, we're not happy. And I think that's normal for all people, young people, faculty, everybody. Clinical depression is when someone goes through this for a prolonged amount of time. I would say probably 6 months or more. And as you said earlier, we've been doing the online learning now since March. So
Yeah.
this is showing the long haul. And sometimes depression occurs because of a chemical reaction in the brain. And of course, there are many things that can trigger it. The major life events that we talk about: divorce, death in the family, actually a big move like you did from country to country. These kinds of things can cause it. But again, what frightens me for the young population that's going through this, it's coming, I think the big thing is the social isolation. And this, I don't know, I want to explain it so that our listeners understand the hopelessness where you can't see that things are going to get better. You feel like you can't go out and do the things you used to do. You can't go to your university. You can't go out with your family, or maybe staying with your family too much. And again, if you socially isolate yourself, we're forced to do that to some degree, but then you're locking yourself in your room. And if we think about even the parents, I think the people in the household may not be aware. At least on campus, if a student would start, I could sense something was wrong, I could talk to him or her, I could send him or her to the counselor. And this is the kind of depression that even we're not able to reach out to the students in the same way. Because again, if there's a bunch of students, I mean, how many did we have in our class? Like 23 students? I can't tell. And maybe one of the students doesn't want to turn her Zoom on. I can't see her from the camera. I can't tell this thing. So if indeed what the statistics are saying, a high number of students are becoming depressed, there's no way for us to reach out to them in the same way. The eye-to-eye contact is everything with this. And again, I blame the social isolation, but the hopelessness, and I think also fear. Being afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow or not happen, or am I going to be able to get my degree, or what about my community service hours, or I was on a scholarship for basketball. There's so many different situations. And as a society, I don't think that we're equipped to deal with this many people feeling this type of depression all at the same time. And again, it's really hard to reach out to people if you can't see them or sit with them or talk to them face to face. This is I think out of all the negatives that have come out of this, and again, we're talking about university age students, this may be the biggest one. And I wonder too, when we all go back and things get somehow back to normal, whatever normal is going to look like, how many students are going to make it through it all? How many are just going to give up? Quit going to university? I don't know. I think that's already happening, honestly. Some students just cannot deal with online learning. They cannot manage their time. They cannot figure out a system for themselves. And, I would say, oh, they're going to go to their teachers. Well, not really. And honestly, even the parents, suddenly a lot of parents are having to work from home. This is new for them as well.
Yeah.
I don't know where the coping skills are supposed to come from. And it frightens me for your generation. This is a whole generation that's going to be impacted by this over the long haul. I just hope that we put systems in place to protect the young people that are feeling depressed, or, hopefully not giving up to the point that they'll lose their lives. But I mean, depression is a tough thing. It is an illness. It is something that needs to be treated. It doesn't even have to be medicine. I mean, it can be with counseling or whatever. That's honestly, that's what scares me the most about this, and which I was frankly happy to talk to you about this, because you know how much I care about my students.
Yep.
Until now, there's some students I'm worried about. And it's usually the quiet ones that suffer the most because they're not going to tell anybody.
Yeah, they usually like to keep it to themselves instead of talking out to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that too, I don't know, I guess I could guess about Malaysia because I've been in Asia quite a few times and in Malaysia. There's a social stigma in every culture. You don't want to tell people, oh, I'm depressed. Well, what's wrong with you? Why don't you get over it? You know how people act. It isn't something that in any society I think that we openly talk about. I think
Mhm.
it's really good you guys are doing this seminar.
Yeah, because that's what we're trying to promoting, that it's okay for you to voice out that you are not facing this alone, because you may not know that maybe people beside you are actually facing the same problem, but then they didn't speak out.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you don't know, and that's why maybe if other people didn't want it to voice it out first, maybe you can voice it out first, so that and then other people will start, oh, he's or he or she is voicing it out, so maybe I should try to voice out as well to help, to get help or something. So don't be shy. um, just just always remember that you are not alone in this. So knowing how badly that it could impact the students, and also maybe it could, um, affecting their family interactions as well. So what do you think that the maybe, uh, let's talk about how maybe we can help ourselves when we are depressed. Like, how do you want to, how specifically do we want it to voice it out? What are the methods for us to voice it out to other people specifically? Yeah.
So, number one, I think you said the most valuable thing is you're not alone.
Mhm.
It's okay. You're not alone in this. Adults, kids, everybody. There are so many people going through this, and not just during COVID, and life in general. And I think most people go through some longer periods of just feeling sad, and
Mhm.
like they don't have control over their life or they're not good enough. There's so many different ways that we beat ourselves up. I think we don't talk nice to ourselves. We somehow come out of social media and television and I don't know what to find what's wrong with us and how we're different than other people. And instead of saying it, looking at it, that's a good thing that we're not all the same. We don't, and my niece who just turned 25, she said specifically when I was talking to her about this, she said, the social media things that you see, even from people on your account that
Mhm.
that's not the real life. We only show the good things. People
Yeah.
are not posting themselves crying in their bedroom eating soup,
Mhm.
with nobody around sitting on
True.
the bed. We don't do that. We show the positive things. So it gives us an unrealistic expectation of who we're supposed to be. So I want everybody listening to me to remember that. Do not base your physical wellness, your mental
Mhm.
wellness, anything on what you see on social media. Number two, you do need to reach out to someone. Everybody, I hope, inshallah, has somebody that they trust. Talk to somebody, if it's a parent, if it's a friend, even Zooming, like we're doing now, at least you're having some kind of contact. And I've noticed as well when I've been online and even I'm seeing things on the television, there's more and more counselors volunteering for free to talk to people because sometimes, again, the shame and the embarrassment and stuff comes with talking about that you feel sad or you feel depressed. It's difficult to talk to someone for some people. Again, we're not all the same. We may be going through similar things,
Mhm.
but what you feel is what you feel. So sometimes you need to reach out to someone, who's not that close to you so you can have what we call the objective opinion. I think that's very important. Interestingly enough, you might be surprised to hear this. I think exercise is a game changer. I
Exercise.
think going outside and getting fresh air, and it's not like I'm a gym nut or something, but just walking outside because vitamin D plays a huge part in our physical
Mhm.
health, which of course also affects our mental health. Um, what we were talking about, sitting in your room and doing everything in your room.
Yep.
Even I was guilty of this. Last semester when I was teaching, I had my couch. You don't know because we weren't recording, but Mohammed said, "Oh, it looks different here than it did before." I
Yep.
created an office space because I was eating on my couch, I was taking a nap on my couch, I was having class on my couch, I was grading on my couch. This is not healthy. You have to change it up somehow. Move around, do different things. Don't sit and do everything in the same place. Just changing the scenery goes a long way in helping. And
Mhm.
again, reach out. I can't emphasize this enough. Reach out to people you know. In my case, I'm far because I just moved halfway across the world to come back to the US. I have to Zoom with people, going to the grocery store. It seems silly, but the human interaction with that, again, if you isolate yourself and you stay in your little bubble in your same place, and because some people live alone, I live alone, you have to get some kind of interaction, be it on Zoom or whatever. But again, most of all, out of all the things that I can suggest, it's very, very, very important to reach out to someone. There's nothing that, you got to talk through this. I'm a strong believer in this. You have to talk about and understand that you're not damaged or, broken, or all these horrible terms that we hear, people use, particularly watching series like we've all been doing during the pandemic. There are people that you can talk to. And I hope it's someone that you can trust, or, again, reach out to someone who's a professional with this. I think it's really important.
Yeah. Also,
That's my most.
I think that it relates back to the fear of being, maybe being misjudged by other people's, or and maybe that's why they didn't want to reach out to other people's when they didn't really have someone that you can trust, or maybe they didn't want to, maybe they felt guilty to make their parents worry, like that, so they didn't want to talk about it. Something. So do you think that maybe the parents or the people around them that should try to help them, or maybe what are the ways for them to help their children or maybe their friends who's probably having this kind of problem?
So, it depends on the family. It you may not feel comfortable talking to your family, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to encourage someone to do something that makes them uncomfortable, because you don't want to make the situation worse. That's why I suggest if you can speak with a professional counselor, if that's better for you. Or, in the case of me, and I say alhamdulillah, because a lot of students came to me when they felt they were feeling this depression or hopelessness or overwhelmed or completely buried in work, and they couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And I was happy to be the person to talk to them about, whatever's going on. And mostly it involves what you'll discover. You just need someone to listen to you. It isn't even that the person has to offer advice. You just need somebody to listen. And I think, excuse me, I think sometimes I've even said with myself when I'm feeling, particularly during the COVID, I'm feeling down, that I just want to not think that I'm crazy. I know that a lot of you out there are thinking the same thing. You're afraid to tell anybody because you think that people are going to think you're crazy. And what I've learned, again, with a great network of friends, a good family, my wonderful students like Muhammad, that you're not alone in this. You really aren't. And you're not crazy. Honestly, it's just that you need someone to talk to. Find that person that's your good listener. I hope all of you will make a friend. And again, if it's one of your professors, that's great. If you have counseling at your university, which I'm sure you do,
Yeah, we do.
reach out to a counselor there. I have some great friends over the years in the places that I've taught. They've helped a lot of students. Again, because especially with them, they don't judge. They're not going to tell anybody what you talk about. You just need somebody to hear what you have to say. And I get that. Again, there's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're holding it all inside, you're choking with it. You need to let it out and talk to someone else.
Yeah. It doesn't matter on how you're going to do it. Maybe you can just email them, or maybe WhatsApp, or just do like a DM on Instagram or Facebook. As long as you can just talk to somebody, as long as you can just express yourselves, right? So you don't necessarily need in advices, as Doctor said. You just need to express yourself, as someone to listen to you, to to ma- to think that it's okay for you to feel a certain way because of the circumstances, and it's okay for you to express yourself, to tell other people about it. Again, you are not alone, and that we can do this all together. You don't have to face all of this alone. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So now, you had you said that you have chances to talk with your other students from the UAE or somewhere. So, what are their takes on this online learning environment as a whole? How are they doing right now?
I honestly think, and again, it was 110 students last semester. Let's talk about for those of them that reached out to me.
Mm,
I suggested to them that they come up with a schedule. It doesn't have to be, okay, eat at 8:10 and 8:17 I log in. No, not like that, but just at least a realistic schedule. So I'm mentoring a young woman here at Virginia Tech, and her thing was she felt like she wasn't organized and she was forgetting deadlines, or she'd be sleeping. I mean, I think the interesting thing about almost everybody I talked to, including myself, our sleep schedules got crazy.
yeah,
We
that's
were up in the middle of the night doing work, and
mhm,
I couldn't separate work from, personal time, because personal time was still on the same couch I told you
yeah,
about. So I think coming up with a realistic and not too rigid schedule for yourself. This is something that has helped a lot on this second go around, because of course now everybody knows, because you're in school, that we're in the second semester doing this online learning thing. So I think understanding, what you need to do, and then reflect. I mean, one of the most important things that I think all of us have done, particularly the students, reflect on what you think went wrong. What did you do well? What worked well for you? What do you need to get under control? Which, of course, again, was mostly the sleeping schedule
yeah,
and not sitting in your room the whole time.
mhm,
Just somehow even moving around the house or the apartment and making a dedicated space to study. And I mean, look, I'll show you because I'm at my desk. I'm a
mhm.
big fan of post-it notes, and I put
Ah,
everything on notes, and they're everywhere. If you can't see because they're beneath my computer, but I put everything on notes just to
mm-hmm,
organize myself, and I'll even write schedules for the day. I have some of the students that I taught before, I got them to get a small whiteboard, small like,
mm-hmm,
and to write each day with a marker. There's something about physically writing out what you plan to do for the day. This has been very helpful for them. Also, and I'm the queen of procrastination, so don't think I'm trying to shade you if you procrastinate. We all wait to the last minute,
yeah,
and this is particularly dangerous during these times because
mhm,
you're in control of your time schedule. I think that's probably what students, of all the students I've talked to, they've missed the most. Like you said, you want to go back to campus, is the faculty and the administration. We made the schedule for you. You had your classes at these times, you knew where the room was, you knew the
mhm,
teacher would be there. All of this was organized for you. Now, not so much.
yeah,
Unless all your classes are online at their actual time, which is not, doesn't seem to be happening most places. So I think regardless of where you are, if you're in Malaysia, if you're in UAE, if you're in the US, this is what's happening. Again, it's very important. What week are you in? When did you go back?
we're going back on 4th October to campus.
No, but you're in class right now, right?
Yeah, we still have our online classes right now.
Yeah, so I think even because you guys are just starting back
Mm-hmm.
recently, you still have time to do this, to reflect back to last semester and say, okay, look at it like it's a series. Okay, what did I
Mm-hmm.
do in this series that was helpful? What did I do that was self-destructive? What did I do that I think it could I could improve? I would like to do that again, but do it in a better way. I think this is what needs to happen. And this is across the board with all the students. And again, I'll emphasize one more time, nothing wrong with talking to somebody about all of this. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's totally true. Um, I could, you already emphasized it enough, Doctor. You just there's nothing wrong with being a little bit different, or there's nothing wrong with feeling what you're feeling right now, right? Maybe you're depressed or you didn't feel well. It's okay to feel those things, and it's okay for you to reach out as well. And as you can heard from the doctor as well. It's not limited to us, like in Malaysia only, but other people in other parts of every countries are also facing the same problems. So if you think you're alone, just think of the other 7 point something billion other people in the world that they must have the same problem as you. So it doesn't matter whatever you're going through, it doesn't matter whatever that you're feeling. You must remember that you are not alone, and it's okay for you to reach out to professionals or to your loved ones or to your friends, as long as you can keep yourself in a healthy shape mentally and physically, like doing the exercises. And I didn't think about the making out the schedule until you mentioned about it. I think that's a very good idea to try out, especially when we still have time before we're going back to campus. And I still think that we could also apply the same technique on campus as well, to be to also help maintain ourselves mentally and physically. So um, I get this. It's a lot that we've been talking about regarding this learning environments and how this might induce depression, etc. Um, the some of the takeaways that we can take from this is like um, always keep in check of your emotions. If you've detected something like maybe you're feeling afraid of something, maybe you're nervous about something, um, or maybe you feel hopeless and fear about something. Because as for me, I was going to go for internship next semester, so I still have this fear as like I didn't do enough, or maybe I didn't have much to put into to work towards to go to my internship next semester. But I can still like email out to the respective department at university to help how to do certain stuff, how to do the resume, etc. And they're just doing it online. So also it's important for you to try to apply the suggestion like the doctor have suggested previously, such as working out your schedule, writing out your plan, talking it out to your trusted ones, etc. So now, to conclude this up, do you have any other advices to students like me or other people around the world, your students, on how to take good care of themselves during this COVID-19 pandemic in 2020? Maybe, just more advices for them. Maybe something they need to know in order for them to, for all of us together to thrive in this hard time of this pandemic.
Okay, so find something you love to do.
Mhm.
I don't care what it is, if it's knitting, if it's video games, if it's watching series, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything except you, and focus on you and what you love to do and make time for that. You've got to make time for things that make you happy and make you smile. Don't be afraid to laugh. We have to laugh at ourselves. I mean, you can't see my feet right now, but I'm wearing pink bunny slippers because
Oh,
pink
that's
bunny
cute.
slippers make me happy. Like I'm so a little kid. So I can zoom whatever with my pink bunny slippers. And I would say, too, you need to remember, and these, I think this is advice you can take with you always. You cannot control what other people are going to do or say. You can only control how you react to it. Don't get yourself worked up about things. I have one of my friends here, slash mentees. He said that there's always this one young woman in class. She always wants to attack people when they say something. So now it's gotten in the class that the other students don't want to talk in the Zoom because she always has something, not nice to say. You can't control what other people are going to do.
That's
Don't let all the other stuff impede you learning, because you can. You chose to go to university. You wouldn't be there if you couldn't manage it. You just need to figure out what works for you. That's the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Um, yeah, we can control much of other people, and we can only do what we can change is only ourselves, but we cannot necessarily change other people. And it's important for you to do your best in doing it, because maybe other people seem like it's a small thing, but for you it's really a big thing for you. So you just do your best in trying to um, thrive in this online learning environment, this virtual world. I think that's a really good advice, Lotte. So thank you so much for that, and we're really honored to have you here. And thank you for those who are tuning in and spending time with us. So don't forget to share your experience in the comments also as well. If you have something to say, if you as we've been saying and we've been mentioning this a lot of time in this session now, you are not alone. So maybe if you comment something down here and then other people can reply to it, then you can say, oh, maybe we have this similarity. Oh, I also experienced the same thing as well. So don't f- don't get shy to voice out, or don't afraid to reach out to other people. You can start by commenting down below. We have this Malay idiom saying that, like, where there's a will, there's always a way. If you wanted something, you can always find a way to do it. When there's a problem, there's always a way to solve it. So thank you again so much, Doctor, for having here. Thank you so much for being here. So remember, everyone, hashtag you are not alone. We can do this, and you can do it. So my name is Shazwan. Thank you for watching, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's all.
You want to cut the recording?
Yeah.